Once upon a time, in a small village on the edge of a vast, mysterious forest, there lived a humble woodcutter named Thomas. He was known for his kindness, honesty, and hard work, although he had little to his name. Every morning, he would venture deep into the forest with his worn axe, cutting only what he needed to sell in the village market. Life was modest but fulfilling, and he was content. One morning, as Thomas was chopping wood by the river, he heard a soft, sorrowful sound. Following it, he found a young woman, elegantly dressed, sitting by the water with tears streaming down her cheeks. Her beauty was enchanting, but her sadness struck him even more deeply. "Excuse me, miss," Thomas said gently, kneeling down beside her. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Startled, the woman looked up, and Thomas could see the glimmer of hope in her tear-filled eyes. I'm lost," she said softly, "and far from home." As they talked, Thomas learned that this was no ordinary young woman. She was a princess, Princess Alara from a kingdom far beyond the mountains. Her family had been visiting a neighboring land when a band of robbers had attacked their caravan. She had escaped into the forest but had since been wandering without food or shelter. Without a second thought, Thomas offered to help her return. He led her back to his modest home, where he shared his humble meal of bread and soup, and gave her his bed to sleep in while he kept watch outside. Though his means were limited, he treated her with the utmost respect and kindness. The next morning, Thomas set out to escort the princess through the forest. The journey was long and challenging, but he knew the forest paths well and kept her spirits high, even as they faced unexpected trials. At one point, they had to cross a deep river, and without hesitation, Thomas carried her on his back to keep her safe and dry. As they traveled, the princess saw Thomas's noble character shine. He was brave, compassionate, and never once asked for anything in return. Over time, her gratitude grew into admiration, and admiration into love. But she kept her feelings hidden, knowing that their worlds were so different. After days of travel, they finally reached the borders of her kingdom. Word of the princess's return spread quickly, and soon they were greeted by a royal guard who escorted them to the palace. Thomas was in awe as they entered the grand hall, where the king and queen awaited. Princess Alara rushed forward to embrace her family, who were overjoyed to see her safe. The king, seeing the humble woodcutter who had risked his life to bring his daughter home, offered him gold and land as a reward. But Thomas declined, saying, "Your Majesty, I only did what was right." Princess Alara, however, could no longer keep silent. She took her father's hand and said, "Father, I wish to marry Thomas, for he is the kindest, bravest man I've ever met." Though surprised, the king saw the sincerity in his daughter's eyes and agreed. Soon after, a grand wedding was held, where Thomas and Princess Alara were united. Together, they ruled the land with kindness and humility, showing that true nobility comes not from birth but from the goodness of one's heart. And so, they lived happily ever after, reminding all who knew them that love can bridge even the widest of divides.